The Nazis that you see in movies are as much a historical fantasy as Vikings with horned helmets and samurai cutting people in half. The Nazis were not some vague evil that wanted to hurt people for the sake of hurting them. They had specific goals which furthered a far-right agenda, and they wanted to do harm to very specific groups, largely Slavs, Jews, Romani, queer people, communists, leftists, and disabled people. The Nazis didn't use soldiers in creepy gas masks as their main imagery that they sold to the German people. They used blonde-haired, blue-eyed families, nor did they stand up on podiums saying that would wage an endless and brutal war. They gave speeches about protecting white Christian society from degenerates just like how conservatives do today. Nazis weren't atheists or pagans. They were deeply Christian, and Christianity was part of their ideology, just like it is for modern conservatives. They spoke at lengths about defending their Christian nation from godless leftism. The ones who hated the Catholic Church hated it for Protestant reasons. Nazi occultism was fringe within the party and never expected to become mainstream. And those occultists were still Christian. None of them ever claimed to be Satanists or asatru. Nazis were also not queer or disabled. They killed those groups before they had a chance to kill almost anyone else, actually. Despite the amount of disabled Nazis or queer-coded Nazis you'll see in movies and on TV, in reality they were very cliché and very able-bodied. There was one high-ranking Nazi early on who was gay, and the other Nazis killed him for that. Saying the Nazis were gay or disabled makes about as much sense as saying they were Jewish. The Nazis weren't mentally ill. As previously mentioned, they hated disabled people, and this unquestionably included anyone neurodivergent. When the surviving Nazi war criminals were given psychological tests after the war, they were shown to be some of the most neurotypical people out there. The Nazis weren't socialists, full stop. They hated socialists. They got elected on hating socialists. They killed socialists. Hating all forms of leftism was a big part of their ideology, and especially a big part of how they sold themselves. The Nazis were not the supervillains you see on screen, not because they didn't do horrible things in real life, they most certainly did, but because they weren't that vague, apolitical evil that exists for white American action heroes to fight. They did horrible things because they had a right-wing authoritarian political ideology, an ideology that is fundamentally the same as what most of the modern right-wing believes. That section about Nazis not being queer and disabled sounds insane, and something only Tumblr would ever need to hear, honestly. It's only ever on here that I find people shipping historical psychopathic murderers. I hate to break this to you, but it was legitimately a homophobic myth some people and groups perpetuated that there was like a high number of gay men among Nazis, you know, to make them seem even more evil or something. Some still do, like right-wingers, because they love being openly homophobic, and disgraced ex-video essayist James Somerton because he is a lazy hack. And I'm pretty sure that's what Op was alluding to. Honestly, I don't even know what parts of Tumblr you are exposed to, that your mind would immediately go there, because I've literally never seen anything like that. Disclaimer, I am Russian Orthodox, if anyone cares about what influences my opinion. I am not looking to insult the author of the post, but to provide historical context. Most of this is correct. However, calling Nazism deeply Christian is offensive to insane degrees. Were there parts of Christianity used by them? Sure. Were there people who considered themselves Christian and Nazi at the same time? Yes. Of course, Hitler, publicly, called himself Christian. I admit to that. Were the elements of Christianity often twisted beyond recognition? Absolutely. Not anyone who called themselves Christian is. I don't mean it in a no true Scotsman way. I mean it in the words have definitions way. Let's all agree that you can't call yourself a Christian if you think Bible is wrong, if you deny the entire Old Testament and huge portions of the New, including, Jesus was the Son of God portion. I do not deny that some Christians are responsible for atrocities. I deny that Nazism was in any way, shape, or form Christian, and so did the Nazis. Look at the end of the post for direct quotes from high-ranking Nazi officials. What Nazis made up was positive Christianity. It is not a Christian belief system, due to, again, words having meanings. It exchanged Bible for Mein Kampf, cross for the swastika, rewrote most, if not all, history of life of Jesus Christ. This was propagated by the Nazis as a substitute for Christianity. Yes, regular churches also continued to exist, but the goal of the Nazi Party always was to wipe them out as soon as they got enough ideological control. Goebbels, there was an insoluble opposition between the Christian and a heroic German worldview. Bormann, National Socialism and Christianity are irreconcilable. Goebbels, in diary. Hitler hates Christianity because it has crippled all that is noble in humanity. Do any of those sound as if Nazism was Christian? TLDR, Nazism, as in ideology of Nazi Germany, is an inherently anti-Christian ideology, according to the high-ranking Nazis.